got the Weiss family. Let me see, Jared and Kelly. Okay. So we're going to talk with them today, hopefully learn a little bit, and more than likely I'll step on my feet a few times as we're doing this. So, but what's new, right? So this is you guys' first time up here on the stage in the hot seat. So let's see. What's an easy question? Do you know where Papua New Guinea is?
We do. It is north of Australia. We found that out as soon as we heard about when the missionary came and spoke to us a little over a year ago. So we didn't know where it was either. It was north of Australia, though.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I just found out, too. I knew it was around Indonesia. I didn't know about the Australia part. But that's one of those things we hear a lot about. So when you first heard about Papua New Guinea, what come to your mind? Like, oh, no, all there is those big lizards or something like that?
Not too much. When we heard him talk about, when we first heard about it, we first heard in the context, him and his wife have been church planners in there for about 20 years, and we just heard there's a big need there. So when we started looking into more, I thought, oh, it's near Australia. I always had a dream as a kid to go to Australia or Africa because I love the animals. And like, well, there's not as many, hopefully, big animals, but the smaller ones there. So our girls like birds, so they've seen pictures of it. They're excited about that.
Okay. You know, and that's one thing. How many kids do you have?
We have 6, and number 7 is on the way.
Okay. Now, this is something I've thought about. Have you thought about flying in an airplane with 7 kids and what that's going to be like?
We have, but a good thing about that is prior to ever going on this, we found a family who did that. They had a husband and wife, he's a doctor, and the wife homeschools, and they had a video of them bringing their 6 kids from America to PNG, and I said, Kelly, watch this video because we're going to have to do this. So very helpful to see their procedure going there and back.
We're used to doing things with 6 kids. It'll be the other people that are stuck on the plane with us that may not be used to 7 children.
Yeah, does that mean like one of you has to take one of the center aisles with half of the kids and the other one the next center aisle with half the kids?
We'll figure out when we get there. One thing, and funny thing from that video was they showed how the husband was holding a baby trying to load a thing, and couldn't do it, so this local from PNG helped hold the baby for him. So he goes, loads up there and gets on the plane, and he's like, great, got the kids here. He's like, wife says, you got 3, I have 2. He goes, wife's like, where's the baby? And so they ended up finding the local had him, and so they figured out, they said, we almost lost a kid on the way to PNG. So, I said, that's not happening with us.
Yeah, try not to leave any of them anywhere. How are the kids responding to this?
So at first, our older ones were pretty opposed to it. And we were a little surprised, but we realized later that how we presented it to them was pretty terrible because we had a ton of farm animals, goats and ducks and chickens and bees. And so we were talking about all the things that we'd have to get rid of, all the farm animals, because obviously we're not loading up farm animals on a plane. And they couldn't take most of their toys and stuffed animals, so that all they were hearing is everything that they had to give up. And then they had no concept of what they were gaining. So once we actually saw videos that Jared found of other families with children serving in PNG in various roles, and they were actually able to visually see what it would be like, then their responses changed. And they pretty much, if they could have gotten on a plane right then and there.
Can we go tomorrow?
Yeah, so now it's changed. I mean, our youngest ones have really no idea what's going on. So they're just along for the ride. But the older ones now are pretty excited. There will be mixed feelings once it's closer to the time to go because there's goodbyes, which are always hard. But I think overall they're pretty excited.
Okay. Let's back up a little bit, and let's say 5-10 years ago, did you have any idea, did you guys even know each other, and did you have any idea that you would be heading halfway around the world?
We were married 12 years ago, so I'd hope we know each other 10 years ago. 15 years ago, however, we did not know each other. So Kelly grew up here in Michigan, Grand Rapids, Holland area. I grew up in North Carolina. We did not know each other until 2012-ish, around that time.
We met at Mid-Atlantic Christian University in North Carolina.
So Kelly had also gone to Johnson University for a time, but she happened to choose, of all places, Elizabeth City, North Carolina, my hometown, and she just decided she was going to go to a Bible college out of Michigan. That was her one requirement. So she wanted to get out. I wanted to get out of Elizabeth City as well, but long story short, I'm staying there. We'll get to some more of that later on. But no, when I was in college, I majored in youth and family ministry, and I'd heard missionaries talk. I thought, that's cool, until I get that. However, there's a lot of work to be done here. That was my opinion beforehand. So I never had this desire to go, we hosted missionaries in our home. We loved hearing their stories. We're supportive of them, but we never thought that was going to be us. So
Actually, I would say before God called us to the mission field, I used to say, I would hate to be a missionary because I hated the idea of support raising and living off support. And I still dislike support raising. But anyway, so yeah, it's not that I was anti-missions. It's just certain aspects definitely did not appeal to me. And so I remember I used to say that. And now I realize I shouldn't have said that out loud because I think God was listening. And so here we are, support raising.
Now, did you think that, or I guess let me start again on here. Did you think I want to go into missions or first and then Papua New Guinea popped in, or did you think, hey, I think it'd be great to go to Papua New Guinea, and then you think, I'm going to have to be a missionary to do that?
I would say neither. We didn't want to be missionaries, period. But like Jared said, we really did think we would be in the States our whole lives. We were pretty heavily involved in our local church. He serves as a deacon there. So yeah, we were really busy here. And then it was when a missionary couple came to our church and shared about the needs in PNG. So PNG is about the size of California, and there are over 840 distinct languages, not dialects, but different languages. So that's part of what makes them hard to reach. So there are many people groups there that are still totally unreached with the gospel. And they were just sharing about the needs and how they needed more people. They shared just how there's tribes that are literally begging for missionaries to come and share God's word with them. And then a lot of mission organizations have to tell them we don't have anybody to send. So I think God used that to really just call both of us separately without, like, I sensed God calling our family to PNG, but I thought there's no way Jared would go for this. So this is just never going to happen. And so I thought, well, if this is really from God, then the Holy Spirit would convict him and nudge him. And so I just wasn't going to say anything to him at all, and I didn't. And then he was surprisingly sensing the same thing. Like, they're saying they need help, so why not us? Why can't we go?
Something that stuck out to me was, as they were sharing, this couple, they've been in PNG for almost 20 years now, and he explained how it takes them decades to do this work. And so they explain how they get to a tribe eventually. Once they get there, they have to learn the language. Eventually, they have to give them a written language because the tribes usually don't have a written language. So they develop a written language for them, help them read their own language, and then take years to translate the Bible into that language. So this takes decades, takes quite a long time. So they're working on the Bible still for them. They're not finished. So it takes a long time. So as he's saying that, he said, we need more workers. That was it. He wasn't trying to recruit. I don't think he was. He wasn't. But just struck me as like, well, I'm a worker. What am I doing now? What can I do? And so we had this. We're separating our talk for 2 days from now. So you're hearing half of it now. But no, we were never planning on it. We had never heard of PNG beforehand. We were not. I had just happened to read a book on missions before this happened. But I was just picked up at the library in our church. So it was never a plan.
Well, with that many languages, are you going to have to learn a language when you first get there, or is there like an English-speaking area that you can start with?
There's 800 distinct tribal languages. However, there is one trade common language. It's called Tok Pisin or Pidgin, and so it's a kind of combination of German, English, and it's a common for most of the people there. So actually on our table there in the back, there is a Pidgin Bible. So early on when we started, I thought, why not give everyone the Pidgin Bible? And the guy explained it to me. He said, that'd be common, kind of similar to where if we gave you a Bible from the 1600s, you could read part of it, you could understand some of it, but you wouldn't be able to grasp the whole thing because it's not in what you speak, it's not your common language, it's not what you understand. So we heard Will and them earlier. They have to understand with how they speak, how they communicate. And so the goal for our organization is we help bring the Bible to their heart language. And so there's a lot of things that don't translate well as far as from English to their language, obviously, but also from Pidgin to their tribal language. We have to figure out how do you translate those things. I won't be a translator, but I'll be helping the people who do that. So I will have to learn, Kelly, and also will have to learn Pidgin there. And so we have heard there are nationals who help us with, sounds weird at first, house cleaning. So when Kelly will have a house cleaner with her, Kelly will spend time with her a lot, so that's one way she will learn the language. And we have heard there are some house people there who help and know English, but will not speak it because they want Kelly to learn the language. I will have to as well with my department a lot because I'll be working with a lot of locals.
Okay. So do you think it's going to be difficult to pick up on languages? I mean, I have trouble with English, and that's, as most people here probably know.
Yeah, some people are gifted at picking up new languages, and I don't know if either of us will be, because we've never been to another country. We've never had to learn another language. We've heard typically, if you're pretty diligent in your study, most of the missionaries can be fairly fluent in the national language in about 6 months. So.
I can see myself becoming conversational and speaking well, but as far as linguistically, like translating, maybe not. I'm more of a math guy, so I'll stay with that.
Okay. I would find it interesting if your kids begin speaking it before you do.
Oh, that'd be fun, though.
We have heard that our kids will acclimate faster to pretty much everything than we will, just because the younger you are, the quicker you just kind of roll with life. So, yeah, we will probably take longer to acclimate to just about everything.
Okay. And so you're not going to be involved in translation, then you're going to be assisting those who are?
So it's hard to kind of grasp this from an American perspective here. But if you guys can think of a church here in America, you're going to have a pastor who helps preach. He has all his shepherding as well. But behind the scenes, you're going to have custodians and work people who do maintenance stuff. So what I do is, right now, I'm a licensed electrician in Michigan. And I didn't know that was a need in mission work, but apparently it is. So with the challenge being in PNG, there's not much infrastructure. So if you can imagine someone going out into PNG, they'll start in a center and be there for a time. Later on, they'll go out into a bush location. When they go out to the bush, the church planners there are not licensed builders. They're not licensed electricians. So they'll call our department and say, we're going to allocate to this location here. Please help build us a house. We'll help. They'll help, but we're the ones who are the skilled tradesmen. So my department is called Tech Services, and my skills as an electrician, also I've done some building here and there, will be used to help build the houses out in the bush, help maintain the houses, help change things if need be, which has happened, and then also to maintain the centers. So our organization has 5 mission centers throughout the country there, plus I don't know how many bush locations. So I'm going to help build, wire, maintain all these things there, and what that helps do is, if you think of the example of my house, was I had some water getting in our basement, really frustrating, took care of it, and I'm grumbling about like this stupid water getting in the basement, but I thought in some minute, I said, I don't like doing this, but I know how to fix it. There are church planners over there who don't know how to fix these sort of things I have learned the skills for. I can help them so they can continue doing what they're doing. And it's come to a point as well where I've heard where the first couple who shared with us, Christian and Angie Walker, he said how he was pulled off of his translating work to help my department because they needed that much work. So my thought is, and he actually told me, he said, honestly, if you can come here, you could do this better than I can. So if I can help take someone's positions where they're not being pulled off of translating, because it happens at times where there's associate work that needs to get done, and they pull people off to help get that done. So if I can go there to help that stop, people can keep translating, great. That's our goal.
So you will be headed out into the bush at least at times to help the people who are established there.
Yes, so we have pictures we'll show later on, but yes, we'll be help to build the houses and maintain the houses that are out in the bush. We have cool pictures later on.
That's just Jared going out into the bush, not me and the kids.
You're going to stay home and maintain the house at home?
I will, yeah.
And then when he gets back, tell him the hot water heater isn't working and he needs to do something about it. Okay, another thing about going to different cultures is in different countries is the diet can sometimes change. Is it going to be a drastic change, or is it going to be something easy to adjust to?
We've been told that in the centers they have a kind of store outpost area, and so that it's pretty Western. So you can get cereal, you can get oatmeal, you can get fresh produce from the locals there, which is much cheaper and is quite healthy because there's all organic there. There's no pesticides. So we have heard you will have stomach adjustments once you get there, but we've heard as far as diet, fairly Western in the centers. If you go out to the bush area, it's not as Western. You have to have some food flown in every few months or so. And I've seen pictures of guys in my department who go out on a bush bill and said, here's what the locals served us here, and said, I don't want to eat that, but it's what's given to them, so they kind of have to suck it up and deal with it. But as far as living in the centers, I think it'll be fairly easy adjustment.
Yeah, there's a decent amount of food that is shipped in from Australia. So that would be fairly Western. And then, like he said, the produce typically is purchased by locals. You do have to wash it much more thoroughly than in America. I mean, unless you want to get like typhoid or hepatitis or something like that. But yeah, so, and we've heard from various missionaries. Some have said it will take your stomach a few months to acclimate, and then others didn't seem to have that issue. So it could just be a personal thing. For some, it's harder than others. And we won't know for us until we get there.
Now, I'm going to guess with you doing your work, you're home with the kids. I think you said that you homeschooled. Are you going to have time for anything else besides the kids and homeschooling and a house?
Well, at the main center, there is actually a small Christian school that the kids will have an option to go to. So our oldest, I think 4, will be old enough for that, and then I'd be home with the youngest 3. So in some ways, with them having the option of going to a Christian school, that will actually relieve me a little bit, versus here in America, I just homeschool all of them, and they're all with me all day long. So anyway, I'll have a little bit more time, but we have heard, like you're cooking a lot more from scratch, so meals are, you just have to plan on they take longer. Nobody's gonna swing by and get a pizza on his way home from work or things like that. So yeah, meals take longer. But yeah, I mean, the bulk of my time will be just managing our household. Once all of our children are school age, if we're still at the main center, then I do actually have a bachelor's degree in elementary education. So there would be a potential that I could teach at the school, but that would be years down the road, because obviously I can't leave little ones home alone while I'm off teaching at school. So
Yeah. Now, too, then, you're going to have basically all the modern cooking things, the stove, oven, microwaves, you know, the Ninja things or whatever they are, freezers, those type of things?
We'll have probably most of them. However, to give a picture for what's like electrically, which is my thing, they have a sort of grid in some of the city areas. They have some solar, so there will be some amount of that, but it's not going to be like, so we have pretty reliable power here in the U.S. There, it's not as reliable. We'd have some solar, so it's going to be, yes, but not as convenient, I'm sure.
we'll have a decent amount of stuff. Like, we will have a refrigerator and freezer. We won't have a dishwasher, but I don't have a dishwasher here in America, so I'm pretty much used to that. And most of the missionaries do not have a dryer. They have a washer, but no dryer. So all the clothes have to be hung up. And there is quite a bit of rain in PNG, so you have to be pretty strategic about when you're hanging your clothes. I've just been told you want to get it out first thing in the morning and not be slacking on that, because the afternoon rains will cause some issues if you're falling behind.
Yeah, I would guess that there's probably only once or twice that happening that you would remember that one. But I'm taking it then too, you do have indoor plumbing, or do you have to use an outhouse?
I think there is. I've never been there. We've never been outside the U.S., so we'll figure it out. But I have seen pictures of some plumbing tubing somewhere where I think there's got to be something.
Well, that's good. So with those, do you like have a backup generator or anything too that you would be able to use?
Yeah, so at the centers they have backup generators for sure, but in the bush locations there's not going to be a backup. It's just they have solar to battery storage. So yeah, the backup generators power the centers as well, yes.
Okay. And then how hard is it to get into the bush? I mean, when you say the bush, I think of either, no roads and a whole bunch of trees that you have to drive around and through. I mean, how is that?
So to give context for the country as a whole, from what I've heard, there are highways in the country, but it's a 25-mile-an-hour dirt road, which is just full of potholes. So if you can picture country roads around here in some kind of rural county, it's going to be similar to that, but throughout the whole country, but there's very limited roads, period. So if there is a bush location we've gone to, there's some hiking they can do. You might have to get dropped off by a helicopter or a plane, but then again, if you have things delivered via plane, you have to have airstrip for that. So there's costs involved where people will say, well, if I want to go to the bush location, Chris and Angie, we've heard that Chris will want to go visit the tribe again, so he'll take a plane ride to a place here, and then he'll hike 2 days up to get to his location. He could have taken a plane there possibly, but there's costs involved where maybe he decided he wanted to hike here instead for a different way. So to get to a bush, likely it's going to be a plane ride, possibly some hiking. So we'll figure it out.
That is one of the things that can make ministry expenses so high for PNG, is because travel is much more difficult in PNG. We live in Michigan, and in general, people in Michigan consider our roads to be terrible, but missionaries from PNG that come back home for home visits to Michigan consider Michigan roads like amazing compared to PNG, because when he says potholes, he's meaning like potholes like the size of your vehicle. So not like little potholes that you can just drive over, like. Is this still working? Okay. So anyway, the roads are very, very bad in PNG. So travel is quite a bit more difficult.
Yeah. And now, did mine go out? Oh, well. Hey, wait, there it is. Okay. So when you have to, like, spend time hiking, is that like with machetes and monkeys up in the trees and snakes dropping down on you, or is there pretty good paths?
I'm guessing there are paths. The locals would know it far better. We'll follow a local, follow their direction. But you asked about machetes, actually. I forgot to tell you. In our vehicle, we have what's called a bush knife. It's about 2 foot long. And so a friend of ours who was over there let us borrow it. And so he said, yeah, here's like a bush knife for my 10-year-old. And so I'm thinking like a regular machete. He goes, yeah, my 10-year-old, it's not big enough for him anymore. Because he said they would say if you stand up and hold the bush knife, it should touch the ground. He said it's a child-sized bush knife. They carry these all the time. And so just common carrying what we call machete over there. So we've brought that in the church before, and people will say, could you not bring that? Because we have kids running around like, okay, sorry. So it stays in our van now, usually.
For the local PNG people, usually like starting age 2 or 3, they're walking around with like bush knives, which is basically a machete. Our 2 and 3-year-olds won't be walking around with one, but their 2 and 3-year-olds might be.
Your 2 and 3-year-olds may love to have one, but yeah, I'm going to guess in Papua New Guinea they're taught from the time they're young to this is not something to play with your brothers and sisters with. Do we have any questions out here that anybody would like to ask? Yes.
So I've been told that for our bush trips, it'll be maybe a week, slightly more, but not much more than that.
We were also told the tech services guys are allowed to decide how long they're comfortable being away from their families. So the guys that have younger families typically don't go out for a bush build and stay quite as long as maybe a family that either has no kids or their kids are all grown and gone. So he has some freedom to choose what works well for our family. So
You better choose wisely.
She's laying in the seat right now.
Are there any other questions? Yes.
Are there any safety issues amongst the population there?
We have heard of the safety concerns we have heard of have been more of tribal fighting. So between the tribes in the area, they'll fight. It's been going on for decades, probably keep going on. But as far as our organization, we haven't heard many safety concerns as far as our expats going over there and having many issues. They usually stay in the compound, which is fenced, and they say stay in the compound during the day, don't go out at night, obviously. And they say if you go out out of the fence, go with a group, go with someone else. And we've heard from that there hasn't been any issues from what I've heard so far.
All of the mission centers are, like he said, fenced in. There's also 24/7 security. So yeah, there's a good bit of security. And then women are, so the mission organization does own certain vehicles, and women alone are not actually allowed to take those vehicles off center. It's nothing against women, it's just for safety purposes. And then, yeah, like brand new missionaries would never be sent out of a center alone. You would be with missionaries who've been there quite a while and understand the culture better.
Actually, fun side story here was we were in Florida a couple weeks ago for training, and our head of security for our organization used to be in PNG in this place we're going to be going to later on. And he said one time he was in PNG and he was going to a store. His wife was shopping, so he looked in the store and saw these little kids walking around. He said they're like young kids. He said, but he could tell they're pickpockets. He said, oh, I see what you're doing. So he went and just started watching them and just followed them around the store, watching them. And they finally caught up to it. And like, oh, he's following us. And said, here I'm walking around following these kids around the store. I said, that sounds creepy. He said, yeah, but they stopped.
Well, you mentioned fences. I just want to let you know that if it has the things going to the inside, that's to keep you in. If it's going to the outside, that's to keep people out. Okay, so that, I don't know if that is scary if you find out they're going in. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for coming up here today, and we'll be treated to hearing them again tomorrow morning, correct? Wednesday? Maybe Wednesday. Sometime this week you will be back for during the missionary prayer time.
Well, you took half my speech already, so we'll see what we get to then.
A song and dance. Bring the kids up. Hey, but that does remind me, when you come back, and I hope you'll come back, maybe I can just interview the kids and find out how they like it.
You can try that. Well, I'll give you a warning, though. Our older son, Elias, we had a Trail Life Pinewood Derby thing a few months ago. And so after one of the races was over, they're transitioning from the boys to the girls. And so the guy was going around with a microphone and said, what do you think about the race? To a lot of the kids. And so the kids said, I thought it was cool seeing the cars. I thought it was cool, whatever. Just a few basic answers. And so I told Kelly, I hope he doesn't go to Elias. Sure enough, he goes to Elias, and he asks Elias, what do you think? And so Elias goes on this 1 minute rant of, well, I went to the lake the other day, and we went swimming. So be careful of talking to Elias.
He'd take up to 30 minutes.
He would.
All right. Well, thank you very much.